Welcome back to another episode on the entire history of humanity channel. When we think of England, images of ancient castles, bright red double-decker buses, or the echoes of legendary rock music may come to mind. But, have you ever wondered, what was England before all of that? Who were the very first people to set foot on this land? How did they survive in the wild, long before history was ever written? Through the fog of time, tens of thousands of years ago, the first footprints were left on the cold soil of what would one day become the United Kingdom. From wandering hunter-gatherers roaming vast plains, to the earliest tribes who learned to farm and build villages, and somehow, they created one of the most mysterious monuments in human history, a structure that defies time and even modern science, Stonehenge. Earlier today, as I browsed through comment sections on various YouTube channels, I noticed a question that many viewers kept asking. Who were the first people to live in Britain? So today, join me on a journey as we turn back the wheels of time, back to an era when fire was a magical power. Stone was a tool for survival, and humans were still struggling to endure, in a world that was as harsh as it was extraordinary. The Paleolithic and Mesolithic periods. The arrival of humans, around 500,000 years ago. The first groups of hunter-gatherers set foot on the land we now call Britain. They survived by hunting animals and gathering wild plants, using primitive stone tools. This marks one of the earliest known milestones in answering the question, who were the first people to arrive in Britain? And when did they come? Based on what I've learned, this period is referred to as the Paleolithic era, because most tools and everyday items, used for hunting, gathering, and survival, were crafted from stone. It's hard to imagine that hundreds of thousands of years ago, in the cold and wild lands that we now call England, there were brave souls who first set foot there. No sturdy shelters, no electric lights, no technology, just their hands, their will to survive, and a few crude stone tools. And yet, it was they, the nameless figures of prehistory, who began one of humanity's greatest journeys. They left behind no names. But every step they took, every spark they struck from stone, every animal they hunted, stands as proof of the resilience, intelligence, and incredible adaptability of the human spirit. We, modern people, can be proud to have inherited that same spirit of survival from our distant ancestors. They remind us that even in the darkest of times, humans have always found a way to rise, to seek understanding of the world, and to move forward. The Paleolithic and Mesolithic periods, when nature shaped human destiny through climate and environmental change. This may have been one of the turning points that led humanity into a new era. Tens of thousands of years ago, Britain was not an island. Instead, it was an extension of the European mainland, connected to France and other regions by a vast landmass we now call Doggerland. People during this time, mainly groups of hunter-gatherers, could move freely between the continent and what is now Britain, following wild animal herds and settling along rivers or in limestone caves. But then, nature changed everything. Around 10,000 BCE, Earth entered a warming period after the last ice age. Massive glaciers began to melt, causing sea levels to rise slowly but inevitably. Over thousands of years, Doggerland, the land bridge linking Britain and Europe, gradually sank beneath the North Sea. And with that, Britain became physically separated from the mainland, officially turning into an island. What seemed like a simple geographic change turned out to be a major turning point that shaped the future of an entire civilization. Isolation slowed the exchange of technology and culture from mainland Europe, pushing the inhabitants to adapt to their environment independently. During the Mesolithic period, circa 10,000 to 4,000 BCE, people began to change their way of life. They developed more advanced tools like small stone axes, bows and arrows, and even wooden canoes for fishing along the coast. They learned to use natural resources more flexibly, from catching fish in rivers to using fire to manage forested areas. Life became more diverse and creative, though it also came with new challenges as nature grew increasingly unpredictable. And out of that isolation, a distinct cultural identity began to emerge, marking a slow but profound transformation from nomadic hunter-gatherers to early settled communities. It was this transition that laid the groundwork for the remarkable developments of the Neolithic age that would follow. I don't know how you, history lovers watching this, might feel at this point in the story. But as for me personally, I find it absolutely incredible to look back at a time tens of thousands of years ago, when humans had nothing but bare hands, sharp minds, and an unbreakable will to survive. Despite facing the harshest forces of nature, melting ice, rising seas, and the breaking apart of the land, our ancestors didn't give up. On the contrary, they adapted, they invented, and they began to form a unique identity of their own. It was precisely through isolation that people learned to observe nature more closely, to craft more refined tools, and, most importantly, to lay the first building blocks of settled life, paving the way for future civilizations. We, modern humans, may no longer live deep in the forests or hunt to survive every single day. But that same resilient, adaptable blood still runs through our veins. And when we understand that origin, we begin to see something clearly. No circumstance is ever too great to overcome if we have enough faith, creativity, and the will to move forward.